World in Conflict is widely regarded as one of the best real-time strategy games ever, for several key reasons that set it apart from others in the genre. Today, we're going to be taking a look at this wonderful game. In an alternate version of 1989, the Cold War never cooled off. It exploded into a global conflict. Instead of collapsing quietly under economic strain, the Soviet Union elects to fight for survival. Negotiations and diplomatic pressure have failed, so the Kremlin launches World War III in a desperate attempt to force the West to support it. The war opens in Europe with a massive Red assault on Western fronts. But even more shocking is what happens next. Uncle Sam's doorstep is struck as well. The conflict's true shock came when Soviet forces land in Seattle, using unmarked cargo ships, and begin a full-blown amphibious invasion. It's November 9th in 1989. The next day, the world will never forget. Lieutenant Parker, a young US Army officer on leave, awakens to chaos as artillery rips through his city street and Soviet infantry spill out of docks into downtown. Alongside Captain Mark Bannon and James Webb, and under Colonel Jeremiah Sawyer, Parker scrambles to organize the scattered US Army units and National Guard defenders. They rescue trapped soldiers, bring civilians to safety, and slowly fall back from the burning Seattle toward the hinterland. The early missions are absolutely desperate. Civilians clog highways, tanks rumble through suburbs, and Parker narrates every moment, not with military detachment, but with the personal horror of watching his country burn. Bannon's brash, aggressive combat style contrasts with Sawyer's steady, measured command. By the time they reach Cascade Falls, the unit is exhausted, battered, and on the brink of collapse. Here the US Army makes a last stand to buy time for the rest of the country, fighting ferociously in the streets and fields. The Soviet offense is ferocious and relentless, and conventional defenses begin to crumble. Faced with overwhelming numbers and losing the town, Colonel Sawyer makes the grim decision to call in a tactical nuclear strike on the city. In a moment that both shocks commanders and soldiers alike, the nuclear blast obliterates the city and halts the Red Army's advance. But at great cost, Charlie Company, under Captain Bannon's command, sacrifices itself to draw out the Soviet forces into range, ensuring the strike stops the breakthrough. The detonation is a brutal turning point, not a victory, but a stark symbol of how far the war has escalated. The story doesn't stay in America though. Months earlier, before Seattle's invasion, Sawyer's battalion had been fighting the Soviets in southern France, near Marseille, to assist NATO forces and counter the Soviet push into Western Europe. That sequence, experienced in flashbacks, shows early Allied cooperation under fire, the death of French liaison commander Sabatier, and the grim reality that this war's flames are spreading worldwide, not just on the US soil. Amid the ongoing ground war, the campaign's narrative widens. The People's Republic of China enters the war on the Soviet side, launching operations in East Asia and reinforcing Soviet positions in Seattle. Though China's amphibious assault falters, this broadening of the war underscores how precarious global stability has become. Political leaders contemplate about further nuclear deployment if major cities fall again, heightening the stakes even more. The US military eventually begins counterattacks. American forces succeed in liberating Seattle after a massive combined operation, breaking the Red Army's grip before the Chinese landing can fully materialize. This victory is strategic and symbolic, proof that America can push back even after suffering staggering losses. What makes World in Conflict more than just another RTS campaign is his personal lens on global catastrophe. The story is told through Parker's eyes, with narration from Alec Baldwin, that feels like wartime memoir, full of human moments, civilian vignettes, soldier camaraderie, and the unsparing cost of total war. Rather than abstract strategy, you see an individual caught in extraordinary violence. The grief of lost comrades, the terror of families fleeing their homes, the moral weight of decisions like nuclear strikes. The theme throughout is clear though. War is chaotic, ugly and personal. There are no guaranteed victories, only actions taken under pressure, each with consequences echoing far beyond the battlefield. Alright, I just told you about the story, but what about the gameplay? Well, at the start of a mission, you're given a fixed amount of reinforcement points, which you can use to purchase units, tanks, infantry, squads, helicopters, artillery, you name it. Each unit costs a set number of points. Once you spend those points, the unit is airdropped onto the battlefield, after a short delay, around 20 seconds. If a unit is destroyed, you get its points refunded after a short delay. This lets you retry different strategies, but losses still matter, especially in tougher missions or multiplayer. One of the most iconic gameplay elements is tactical aid. Powerful support actions lets you call in from off-map by spending tactical aid points, which you earn by... One of the most iconic gameplay elements is tactical aid. Powerful support actions you can call in from off-map by spending tactical aid points, which you earn by destroying enemy units, capturing objectives, repairing vehicles, and building fortifications. This tactical aid includes things like airstrikes, artillery barrages, paratrooper drops, and even tactical nuclear missile strikes in certain missions. These abilities arrive after a delay, so timing is important. You can't just spam them, you have to plan around them. Players often say that World in Conflict feels more immersive and tactical than most strategy games, for several reasons. You're focused on combat, positioning and timing, not base building or harvesting materials. Losses feel actually meaningful, because you get points refunded slowly and must redeploy units. Every casualty matters. Players report that you feel like you're really fighting a war, not just managing numbers. Strategic death without overload. Tactical decisions matter, of course. Unit composition, use of terrain, effective support calls, but the game never overwhelms you with menus and big production trees. And big moments with tactical aid. Massive carpet bombings, concentrated artillery, and other support powers make battles feel epic and really explosive, like you're watching a Michael Bay movie. Unlike traditional RTS games that focus on base building and resources, World in Conflict places all of its emphasis on battlefield decisions. You don't harvest resources or build bases. Instead, you're giving a number of reinforcement points to spend on units. If a unit dies, its cost is refunded, after a short delay of course. The focus is on battlefield control, positioning and combined arms, rather than economy micromanagement. This system keeps the game fast, focused and intense. Players must think tactically, rather than micromanaging a sprawling economy. But World in Conflict is not just praised for its gameplay, but for its visuals and audio design, which together make the experience far more immersive and impactful than many other strategy titles. When the game was released in 2007, its graphics were top tier for the genre. Every battlefield is richly detailed with destructible environments. Buildings crumble, tanks leave tracks in soft terrain, and debris scatter realistically after explosions. This made battles feel alive and constantly shifting, rather than a static backdrop. The explosion effects are a major talking point even today. Artillery barrages, napalm strikes, and bombardments produce dramatic firebolts, smoke plumes, and dust clouds that linger and affect visibility. The game's rendering of smoke and fire was particularly noteworthy. Thick black clouds rise after a strike, and can even darken the sky over a battlefield, adding weight to each engagement. After all this is said and done, World in Conflict still is my favorite RTS game of all times, and nothing comes even close to beating that. It's the atmosphere in this game, the graphics. Some people would call it outdated, but to be honest, for 2007, the graphics are pretty good for an RTS game. You have to say, that's pretty good for an RTS game, even by today's standard. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how you like this game. If you are still playing it. I don't know, the servers have, for multiplayer, have long shut down, but I know there was some revival, but I don't know if they are still active today. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this short little rambling video about one of my favorite games ever created, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye!